Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Sunday, March the 1st. That's right, the month of March is here, certainly in college basketball, huge month upcoming, but pretty big month in the NHL too, as it's the last full month of NHL regular season action before the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, April is that month where we have the regular season winding down in the first couple weeks of the month, and then the playoffs begin in the latter half of the month as the home stretch rolls on here in the NHL. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you, ready to break down the Sunday NHL card. And as we get past football season, we notice that these Sunday cards have more games than usual. We're not talking just 2-3 games anymore on a Sunday. Got a nice 6-game slate here for this Sunday. We'll break that down in just a moment. We'll look back first on yesterday's action and another profitable day. I mean, pretty solid, no complaints. Like the way things played out for the most part. With the exception of the first game, Pittsburgh 2-0 against the lowly Rangers, and you can't hold the lead, and you can't find a way to finish it. Oh my goodness! But give the Rangers credit. Nice comeback by them there, down 2-0. They rally to win in a shootout, 3-2 over the Pittsburgh Penguins yesterday. Great job by them. A much needed win. You know, it's wins might be few and far between for the Rangers the rest of the season, but it was nice to see them get the job done there. Philadelphia, I'll tell you what, Boston had their chances. Dan Vladar was tremendous yesterday afternoon for the Philadelphia Flyers, giving them the kind of performance they really needed in between the pipes. And the Philadelphia Flyers on the back of the goaltending, you know, a 3-1 win over the Boston Bruins. They were opportunistic. And for Philadelphia, I know they came into that game. A lot of the quotes were, you know, this is the team that's with the second wild card. This is the team we need to try to catch. So important to get 2 points in this game and try to win in regulation. They were able to do that. And it kind of felt like, look, do I think the Flyers are making the playoffs? No. But, you know, if they want to entertain any thoughts of trying to make the playoffs, they had to win that. That's the team you're trying to catch for the final wild card. You had to win that game. And there's no question, you know, it was a huge win, almost a must for the Philadelphia Flyers to win that. And they were able to get the job done 3-1. By the way, I wanted to shout him out. I see him in the chat here, Velu. He's from Finland, this guy. I saw him in the chat saying greetings from Finland the other day, and I forgot to mention him and shout him out, and I just saw him post in the YouTube chat just now. So we've got Finland representing here.
Awesome.
In the chat, which is great to see. Like I said, the Ice Guys is international. You'd be amazed how many people are watching this show in different countries all around the world, and we're honored for that. No question about that. We appreciate that very much. What a crazy game Edmonton-San Jose was, very much like Edmonton-Anaheim a few nights ago coming out of the break. The Oilers, again, defensively, what an absolute shambles they were defensively, especially in the first period. I mean, it could have been, honestly, 5 or 6 goals for San Jose in the first period alone. That is how atrocious in their own end defending the Oilers were. They were lucky it was only 3-1 after the first period. I was worried, actually, that the longer that game went 3-1, I'm like, San Jose's had issues putting Edmonton away in the past, and it was looking like it was going to be same old Edmonton with the comeback. They tied it up 3-2. San Jose went ahead 4-3 with the goal, of course, after that by it was Bouchard and Frederick that tied it. Wenberg made it 4-3. Jake Wallman ties it at 4. And then, of course, a really nice shot from the point. Shakir Makhmadoulan gives the San Jose Sharks the 5-4 lead. And boy, oh boy, ill-timed penalty taken. Well, not ill-timed. He had to take that penalty, Desharnais. He saved a goal. If he doesn't take that penalty with a minute and change left, it's 5-5. So it was actually a good penalty to take by Desharnais, but still, I mean, you give Edmonton the extra attacker, 6-on-4, and a power play. I'm thinking, boy, it's probably going to overtime. But boy, Yaroslav asked about me, as I think someone said in the chat, absolutely tremendous in the final minute. He made a couple of amazing saves. He had a one-on-one staring the quote-unquote perceived best player in the sport, Connor McDavid, you know, one-on-one and snared the glove out, made the save on Connor McDavid. He made a couple of dandy saves in the final minute to help San Jose hang on and get the 5-4 victory in that game. That was a beautiful game as far as betting. Team total over, Sharks money line, and then of course the full game over cashes very, very easily. That's now 10 straight Oilers games, by the way, with 7 or more goals. So anytime you see 6.5, Alex, I'll just throw it to you on this to make a comment on it. It's over auto for me over anything less than 7 with these Oilers games as far as totals.
Yeah, it's funny. We'll talk about the greatest over streak in the league still running right now, but that seems to be one of them as well. Usually we try to tread lightly with that 6.5, wait for 6s in game, or get a little creative with things. No reason to have to do that with the Oilers right now. It's like I said, it's been high flying, and maybe the 7s continue to appear because we saw 7s pop up with that game as well yesterday at times. So maybe, like I said, those 6.5s may turn to 7s for the foreseeable future involving early games.
Yeah, no doubt. And like I said, it's been high-scoring hockey. It's either the Oilers score a bunch or the opponent scores a bunch or both. And we got that yesterday in that Anaheim-San Jose game. But very entertaining stuff. New Jersey, finally a win for the Devils, 3-1 over the St. Louis Blues. I guess that's what I get for backing the Blues. You can't always trust these flaky teams. And when it's all said and done, like I said, definitely, it's obviously a situation where the St. Louis Blues, still have had a bad season. Even though they were facing New Jersey at home, it was difficult to truly buy into, them winning. I just thought New Jersey was that bad that, oh my gosh, has it happened? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Common sense prevails, ladies and gentlemen. Where's that jingle? We have some breaking news.
This is breaking news from the Ice Guys.
See you later, Jim Hiller. Jim Hiller has been fired as head coach of the Los Angeles Kings, which is funny because they actually won last night. They beat the Calgary Flames 2-0. That's not the first time we've seen a coach fired after a win. It happened to Dean Evison, too, earlier this year with the Columbus Blue Jackets. But yes, Elliot Friedman, Jim Hiller has been fired as head coach of the LA Kings, and DJ Smith has taken over as the interim head coach, which is, he's not going to be the permanent guy, in my opinion, but he is going to be the interim head coach. And he does have head coaching experience, of course. DJ Smith, former head coach of the Ottawa Senators a few years back. But hallelujah. Kings fans, Kings Nation, you've been screaming about this for, months, all season, really. And like I said the other day, I truly didn't buy into it happening this time. Because in my opinion, and Alex is totally on board with this, they had 10 different times to fire the guy this season. You could have even said he didn't deserve to come back this year at the beginning and fire him after that epic collapse, that brutal choke job against the Edmonton Oilers in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs last year. I thought that was enough. I'd seen enough. With the bench management, with playing one of your defensemen 2 minutes, 2:43 of ice time, totally absurd, nonsense. Fourth liners not even getting a shift barely during a hockey game, wearing out your top guys and making them play minutes that they shouldn't have played that many. Dumbass challenge decisions that cost your team momentum and brought Edmonton back into that series. I'll never forgive him for that challenge he made in game. I think it was game 3. Terrible challenge. He had no shot, none, 0, winning it. And he gave Edmonton life, and they just rode it all the way back to winning in that series. I thought at that point in time, and Jonathan Davis, who of course has been covering the Kings for a very long time. Why did it take this long? Why now? Why not 2 weeks ago? Why not a month ago? Why not in December, November? Why now? Like, why did it take this fucking long for this to happen when it was the clear decision to be made? You lose like you did against Edmonton. Why did we have to wait for the Calgary game last night to get played for this to happen? That should have been done Friday morning, right after that debacle against Edmonton. That's when it should have happened, but it had to happen. It finally has. I guess it's better late than never, the old saying. But Alex, I'm happy for Kings fans because, like I said, it's gotten bad. And I'm sure he's a nice guy. JD says nothing but nice things about him as a person. But as an NHL head coach with this Kings team, he's been nothing short of freaking brutal, and something had to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, the Edmonton series was, the worst malpractice I've ever seen from an NHL head coach in a playoff series in my 30-something years of watching the sport. That in itself should have been an immediate firing. But then you bring him back. You go through training camp. You still have this kind of rocky season. Like I said, there's been 20 other times where we can point to say, okay, now's the time to cut him loose. Now's the time to cut him loose. And here you are, post-Olympic break, 5 days from the trade deadline, still in limbo of the wild card race, and you make this move. Why now? Why wait until this particular point? You don't know. But happy for Kings fans. To don't have to watch this now. DJ Smith, is he an upgrade? Not really. But you had to get somebody different in there. You had to get somebody new, and maybe just a change of voice in that locker room for a week can turn things around. If they can say they get 3 points, over the next 4 games, and now they're back in that wild card race, and now they have a little bit of life. You're in a better situation than you were with Hiller just treading through the waters. And that game last night, was that so much the LA Kings winning, or was it the Calgary Flames not really showing up and giving a shit either? I mean, that game was absolutely dreadful. Somebody who
talk about how don't trust bad teams sometimes, and I trusted St. Louis, and the same thing about Calgary. We thought, oh, Calgary, great win against San Jose the other night. Surely you can beat LA, and just terrible.
I liked Calgary enough to double up money line and make the team total my best bet, and they couldn't get a fucking goal for us. So and I think that maybe that was the straw that broke the camel's back. LA got the win and got the 2 points, but it wasn't necessarily that they played this great game against this quality team. It was kind of almost, damn near gifted to them the way that game played out. So, yeah, why not make the change now, and let's see what DJ Smith can do, and if he can rally that Kings team back into, because we just talked about it. That Pacific's wide open. Like I said, I love Anaheim to possibly go and win that division because I'm not afraid of Vegas. No one's afraid of Edmonton. And no one's afraid of Seattle the way that they've played as well. So, the Kings
Why
still
not
have
the Ducks?
life.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Why not them? Yeah. Why not Anaheim? You're right. I mean, Vegas could flip a switch and look like that dominant team, because I think roster wise, top to bottom on paper, they're the best. Vegas.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
They haven't shown it frequently.
But talent means nothing. The most talented team in the Pacific could very well be the Edmonton Oilers, right? With one of the best players in the game. Yeah, but then where are they? So the Pacific's so wide open now that, okay, even with making this change, and as bad as things have been late for LA, all you need to get is a few wins to really get momentum back on your side, and now all of a sudden you're floating around in the wild card race. You're back in that Pacific race. So it's a move that needed to be done earlier, but it's glad that it's done now.
Yes, it is. And like I said, will this be like a 10-1 type of run that the Blue Jackets put together for Rick Bowness? I'm not going there that far with this Kings team. I'm kind of with JD. It's just not a great team right now. They do have some injuries as well. It's important to note that Kuzmenko just undergone surgery. He's going to be out for a while. Fiala's lost for the season. Doughty's still been banged up. So, like I said, they still have some injuries. But tomorrow night, Matt Green joining DJ Smith on the bench, and he was a great locker room guy. Matt Green was a good, heart and soul guy, stay-at-home defenseman, physical. I remember back in the day, Matt Green as a player. He needs some of that, I think, right now, this Kings team. So we'll see. I'll be on them tomorrow. Absolutely. The first game after a coaching change, I will be on the team, regardless of the situation or the opponent. I know it's Colorado, who they're going to have to play tomorrow night at home, but I'll be on, Kings first goal, first period, that and full game, that kind of stuff. But I don't know if this is going to be that, I'm riding the train for 10 games like it was with Columbus.
And moving forward, the Kings need to make sure not to twins themselves. What do I mean by that? I'm referencing Major League Baseball's Minnesota Twins. Don't get caught up in bringing back everybody who was a part of the organization at one point in time, played with. There's a lot of that, right? Luke Robitaille, Rob Blake was the GM. Now you talk about Matt Green. There's always that bringing people back, and that can be a good thing in certain capacities, but you don't need that for every head coach and every GM and every important part. Sometimes you need to go outside of the box, and I think that's what LA needs to do moving forward with their next general manager and their next head coach. Go outside of the box. You don't need anybody who wore silver and black, because you know what? That hasn't helped you much lately.
Yeah, I remember DJ Smith Perlo. This is one of the better points I've ever seen him make, whether it's on this show as a guest or in the chat. DJ Smith played an up-tempo game with Ottawa. No question about that. And are we going to see overs now with LA? And I'm already thinking that could be the case tomorrow. And I see 5.5 with juices out there with the total for Avs Kings on a Monday night. So I know we're talking about that game a lot, but yeah.
It makes Panarin props look really juicy moving forward, because now for him to come to a new team and then already have that shakeup being made. I could see his game really, and like I said, DJ Smith, like I said, more of an up tempo guy. That's going to be news and music more than likely to number 72's ears.
Yeah, no doubt, especially for a guy that wants to play that kind of a style, or the guy you went out and got right before the trade deadline or before the Olympic break, Artemi Panarin. So there it is. Long time coming, but Jim Hiller relieved of his duties as head coach, and DJ Smith, he gone. And look, there's nothing personal. Like I said, maybe a nice man, but terrible head coach. I mean, that's the way it is. It's right, Jonathan has used those exact words to describe Jim Hiller. Great guy, horrible head coach. Terrible.
Nothing. It's nothing personal. Strictly business.
Yeah, and too many blunders. All right, so we won't bother talking Calgary, LA now that we talked about the Kings for the last few minutes. It's almost redundant that they won that game. The change was made. The change had to be made, even though they beat the Flames last night. Let's move on. Colorado beats Chicago 3-1. Hey, thank you to the Blackhawks, though. They did what they had to do for me. They got me that goal in the first period, and then they went on and lost. And, at 3-1, they got that first period goal, and that was it. From that point on for Chicago, but 3-1 there for the Avs as they bounce back after losing to Minnesota at home. Islanders, great game this was against the Jackets. I'm very disappointed because I had Columbus team total, which pushed on the 3 and the money line, but Islanders get the win in overtime 4-3. It was a big win for the Islanders because, of course, the Blue Jackets have closed the gap on the Islanders for that third spot in the Metro. But a big 4-3 overtime win for the Islanders. A game-winning goal there from Simon Holmstrom for the game winner for the Islanders there. Carolina 5-2 against Detroit. Over best bet for me, Cashes, with the Carolina-Detroit game, which was great to see. The only thing I wish is we got one more goal out of Detroit because I did take the team total for the Red Wings. The 2 is all they got, but we did get the full game over, which was the biggest bet of them all. And the best bet for the show yesterday. How about Mr. Saturday Night, goal, Caulfield? I thought we were going to get the hat trick too, but Alex B. Smith with the bargain bin special, 2 goals, plus 850. His Saturday night tear continues for Cole Caulfield of the Montreal Canadiens, and his efforts, a big reason why they beat Washington 6-2. I was on the team total over for Montreal, very easy. We bet the live over in that game as well, which was also came through. I was able to get it at 5.5 once it stayed 1-0 for a while, and then I was able to see the 5.5 pop up and be able to bet it. So great to see that. And Cole Caulfield just continues he's had a great season in every day of the week, but especially Saturday nights with the production he's had. This is now multiple Saturdays where he's had multi-goal games as well for the Montreal Canadiens. So 6-2, great bargain bin hit there for Alex last night. What was not great was Toronto. Oh, my God. That was a Ranger-esque performance last night. Like, totally dominated, dummied, caved in. Really the same shit that happened in Florida the first 2 games after the break. Like, they are getting outshot, outchanced. They don't have the puck. Honestly, they don't have the fucking puck for most of the game, the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's why they're, getting just absolutely – they're getting bludgeoned in possession, ozone time, all of those stats. They are getting destroyed in these 3 games, Florida, Tampa, and last night by Ottawa. Like, absolutely horrific in a spot where you're supposed to be playing with desperation. But we said that about the last 2 games. So very easy winner there with Ottawa. We had Sens money line, Sens team total. I think Alex had pieces of that as well. They got the job done there against the Toronto. It's really total, utter domination. And it could have been 8-2, 9-2, 10-2 in that game if not for the efforts of Joe Woll, it was a mercy pull. He actually played very well in that game. And Stolarz actually played well in relief, or it could have been a lot worse. For the Toronto Maple Leafs last night. But yeah, see you later, Toronto. Season's done as far as I'm concerned for them. And it's just going to be a matter of, who's going to be dealt at the deadline and what changes will be made for the Leafs. And meanwhile, for Ottawa, they're still in the mix. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do for Ottawa, but they can at least think of still trying to make a playoff push after that win last night. Performance of the night, no question about it. The frickin' Buffalo Sabres, who continue to amaze. They chased a goalie that's been a frickin' brick wall, almost unbeatable for like 2 months running in the NHL, and Andrei Vasilevsky, and they chase him after the 5th goal. 6-2 victory for Buffalo last night. I've seen enough. I mean, I don't see the collapse happening. I don't. They're playing great defensively. The team structure, it's just funny. I had the Sabre game on one TV and the Leaf game on one of my others, and they were side to side at that moment. I'm like watching Buffalo and Toronto defensively. They don't even resemble each other Like Buffalo's playing with structure. Buffalo's not turning it over. Buffalo's getting the puck out. They're getting the transition game going. And Toronto looked like chickens with their fucking head cut off all night defensively in the other screen. So you can't even resemble the two. Buffalo, and that's why they are playing much better. They can score goals. Score goals was never the issue last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They gave up too many, and the goaltending wasn't good enough. And you got to give UPL credit because UPL's now on a 2-week stretch, Alex, where he's played great for them. And Lyon's been terrific all year for the most part. So these two guys are getting it done in between the pipes, and the defense has been a lot better. What a win. A win that was so good for Buffalo and a loss so bad for Tampa that John Cooper kind of went off after the game saying, that's despicable the way we played. So circle those quotes post-game. And how'd you like to be John Cooper this past week? You lose the gold medal to the U.S. in heartbreaking fashion. You come back home, you're worn out, you're spent, you're exhausted, you're heartbroken still that you lost that game, and then you find out your father passes away. And that's terrible. And then you come back to coaching last night, and your team plays like a bunch of ass. Terrible last night. So not a good week for our guy, John Cooper. And I think that was frustration of what's gone on in his life the last 7 days that I think came out in that press conference, because he's about as angry and pissed as I've ever seen him last night. So Tampa Bay, next game, look out. You'd think there'd be a response.
Yeah, that's a huge, like I said, it's a huge game for both sides, right? And when you look at the divisions right now, you're just 4 points behind Tampa Bay in the race now. If you're Buffalo,
they can win the division. They can. Now Tampa does have, I think, a game in hand or two, if I'm not mistaken, but still they're there. They got a chance.
But that's what I'm saying. You're that close, and you just now beat that team that you're chasing in that fashion. And we said it yesterday. I liked the draw in that game because I said, okay, we're seeing Buffalo's progression. Can you hang around with one of the top tier teams? You beat these lowly teams. Okay, you beat the teams you're supposed to beat. But how are you going to stack up, like I said, coming out of this break now against a team that had been scorching hot out of before the break in Tampa Bay? And for them to show up the way they did early and often with the offense, and like I said, not just coasting through and grinding out and trying to slow down Tampa and force them into a 3-2 shootout victory. No, putting the screws to them and beating them by margin. This team's here to stay. This team is here to stay. I don't know if they make the run and go on and win the Atlantic, but this is certainly now, when the fluke is, there's no fluke here. This is a Buffalo team that is one of the 8 best teams in the Eastern Conference, and they deserve to finally be back in the playoffs. And if they can continue this run, they will be a pesky out. I don't know if they're going to make a deep run, but they will be a pesky out whoever they have to face, especially if you're talking about as of where they sit right now, could have home ice. We haven't seen a playoff crowd in that building in a very long time. It made me think about one of the things we talked about with Montreal. Montreal, that crowd last night. I don't know if you caught any while we're watching that game, and I was watching it on Montreal Speed. That sounded like a fucking playoff game. That crowd, every time
most
they
nights
score,
when they're playing well, they do sound like that. That's a great
crowd. That crowd is just incredible. And so if you can get, that, I think you'll get that same kind of intensity if you got Buffalo back in the playoffs for the first time in God knows how long. Those situations make for tough outs in game 3, game 4, game 1, game 2. Those first moments of those games in the playoffs, that crowd interaction means a lot in those particular moments. And I get that vibe from a Montreal, but I definitely get that vibe from a Buffalo as well. As they're playing, that home crowd stream's going to get better. A place that used to be a mausoleum 4 or 5 years ago, now having life, that's going to make it just that much harder to play the Sabres down the stretch.
I remember those 2 glorious Sabre teams right off the 2004 lockout season, 05-06 and 06-07. It was the second year. They got to the conference finals both years, the Buffalo Sabres, those 2 teams. And the second year, there was a game against the Rangers. They played the Rangers that year. I think it was in the first round. And Chris Drury tied the game in the final final minute of the third. And I remember that game being in Buffalo in the playoffs, and it was deafening when he tied that game. Deafening. I know for a fact, Alex, now we're old farts, so we're old enough to remember, 2 years or 20 years ago like this when Buffalo was making those playoff runs, and then in the 90s too when they had Hasek.
Yep.
Those were loud buildings at playoff time for the Buffalo Sabres. So I'm with you on that point. I think if Buffalo, and I think we're starting to remove the if from the equation, but in the playoffs, Buffalo, that home building, it could get rocking because I've seen it before and I've heard it before. And the building was shaking when Drury scored that tying goal that night in that playoff series in 2006, I think it was, or 7. I definitely remember it. The building was going nuts. Yeah. And so was Rick Jenneret. God love him. In the booth. His call of that was Chris Drury. Who else? He said in his great call there that night. But yeah, the building was shaking. And if Buffalo makes the playoffs, like I said, it'll be one of the better environments in the playoffs. I think if Buffalo gets there for sure, no question. All right, the remainder of the games for Saturday. We just had the late games. We already talked Calgary, LA. Dallas rescues themselves. They were down 2-0 against Nashville. Come back, beat the Nashville Predators 3-2 in overtime. Jason Robertson, Robo, getting the game-winning goal. And then in the late game, pretty good result overall. We had Seattle team total, the full game over 5.5, and the Kraken get it done. We said they had to win that after losing the first 2 after the break. Got to beat a lowly Vancouver team, and they were able to do that 5-1 victory over the Vancouver Canucks. Anything else to add, Alex, about Saturday?
No, not much. We talked briefly with that Hawks game. Spencer Knight, he had a hell of a game. Despite the 3-1 loss, I mean, he kept them in flow. That should have been 7-1.
Shut him out for 2 periods, and that's hard to do with that team in that building. That
should have been 7-1. Avs, we should have. I feel almost snake bit not cashing that 2-1 correct score in the first period, because as soon as Bedard scored, that's when the Avs just started. The avalanche literally was there with shots. But Spencer Knight with a huge game, stealing. Could have stolen one. Honestly, but like I said, that things just kind of fell apart. And you mentioned with Joe Wall, we have to be careful with this Toronto team, as bad as they are. I don't think Wall and Stolars, they're still going to be feisty. They're still going to give that team a chance against certain teams. So against the top tier teams, yes, we could pay Toronto, but against middle and bad teams, Toronto still has a bit of an edge because those 2 guys aren't going to give up down the stretch.
There's some truth to that. Let's be honest. I know they've looked bad and they're 0-3 out of the break, but they did play Tampa Bay, Florida, and Ottawa. Those aren't horrific teams. Those are all good or better teams. So that's a decent point to be made. All right, before we get to the Saturday card, we do have to shout them out. And thanks to everyone that voted in the impromptu poll I posted last night. What would be the more entertaining hockey game? Vancouver versus Seattle, or Matt Robinson's Reno Ice Raiders in a Mountain League men's hockey game, senior league game against, I think it was Breckenridge they played last night. And you guys voted, I think 65-35 was the split for Reno, and Matty Rob, his game would be more entertaining. And it was. If you actually watch the 2 games side by side, and I did, the Reno game was more entertaining, no question. But you talk about the fastest goal maybe that Reno's scored in a game in quite some time. It was so good we had to play it here. This is our guy. You know him, you love him. Tuesdays and Thursdays with us right here on the Ice Guys show. Matt Robinson scoring a whopping 8 seconds into the hockey game last night.
And this game is underway. Ice Raiders win the first draw of the game. Morgan Ellis skates it back into his own zone, button hooks away from Eli Kendall, and gets it up ahead for Jake Minton for a 2-on-1 already with Matt Robinson across. Matt Robinson scores! Nick's going to change the clock to about 1952. And that's Minty from Ellis. And 81 gets a helper too. And we'll give one to Morgan Ellis. 8 seconds in, 1952. 9, 91, 81. Even strength. Ice Raiders strike first. Strike first, no mercy. Strike first, no.
Waiting for it, they didn't. But there you go. It was a nice goal, 2-on-1 as well. Did what he had to go to the net, and Matt Robinson doing all the hockey 101 things to make that goal a reality. So, way to go, Matt. Nice to see him get 8
it's
seconds.
First goal weekend for him, right? He gets a Logan Cooley bargain bin for first goal, and then gets a first goal himself. So.
That's true. First goals have been good to Matt Robinson this season or this weekend, no doubt. Logan Cooley cashing a bet on Friday night, and then scoring in actual action the first goal of the game last night for the Reno Ice Raiders. So Matt Robinson, congrats, man. Great goal. Excellent. And probably the fastest goal, I would say, in Reno history to start a game. Will we have an 8 seconds into this game? Probably not. But it is the first game of the slate. TNT, by the way, great. Two national games today, which is great to see. One on each of the rights holders. TNT has Vegas, Pittsburgh, and then ESPN tonight has Florida and the New York Islanders. So nice to see national TV games on both networks that hold the rights here on this Sunday. So TNT, Vegas, Pittsburgh, Vegas minus 150, road favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. Pittsburgh, tough loss yesterday, 3-2 to the New York Rangers in overtime. They'll be looking to bounce back. It is a back-to-back, obviously, for them. For Vegas, they're off the loss to Washington Friday night, 3-2. Logan Thompson sticking it to his old team in that one. We'll see how this one plays out. Last year, these teams split the head-to-head matchups. It was 4-0 Vegas at T-Mobile, and it was 3-2 Pittsburgh in overtime in the rematch in Pittsburgh. We'll see how this one plays out. Now, Skinner was in net yesterday for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Artur Shilov's obviously on the back-to-back will get the start here. We're starting to see now Shilov's closing the gap on Skinner. Skinner's been okay. I wouldn't say he hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been great either. Skinner, the last few times we've seen him in net for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Shilov's has been very good lately. He's put together some nice performances. I kind of think that's a Vegas spot, though, after the loss to Washington. Remember, Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner, Mark Stone, Shea Theodore, all those top players for Vegas that sat out against LA, returned against Washington, and maybe they were a little off, right? A lot of these guys haven't played in a while. Looked a little shaky, a little out of sync, not fluid in that loss to the Capitals. You'd expect now that they've gotten a game under their belt, they're going to be a lot more crisp with their execution here this afternoon against Pittsburgh. So I kind of lean to a Vegas team total a little bit, over 3.5 in this game. I did sprinkle on that small just for a little action in this game, and just a small bet on the draw too. We did see the game in Pittsburgh last year go past regulation. Points are at a premium for both of these teams. Vegas trying to hold on to first from the charging Anaheim Ducks. Pittsburgh just trying to maintain a playoff spot coming off a loss. So if this game's close and it's, a 1-goal margin or tied late in the third, I don't think there's going to be a onus really on either of these two teams to try to push to win in regulation. Just get the points secured in an East versus West matchup. So I'm going to do a small pregame sprinkle on Vegas team total over and as well the draw here in this one. Alex, what do you think? Vegas, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this one ended up being a pass for me. I was leaning toward the under. Of course, we've been seeing that trend of Sunday games going under. Is it 49, 12, and was it 4?
There it is, right on
49, 46, 19, and 3. JD's got that. Yeah. So it's been a heavy run to the under, but like I said, with these goaltenders, I wanted to see one who's going to be confirmed for Vegas because I'm seeing it could be Hill, could be blanking on the backup there, Schmid. And then you've got, like I said, Shilovs, who has closed the gap, played a little bit better, but he's a guy who, we've seen give up. If he's given up goals, it's come kind of early. So this is one where maybe I'll wait for, something in game. I lean with under 6.5, but maybe if there's a goal early, a goal kind of quick in this one, I can get a 7.5 at a better adjusted price, and then look for things to slow down. That wouldn't shock me, but especially when you're talking about this is a draw season setup where you have East versus West early game, both teams needing the points. So that's the way I'm kind of looking at it now. Nothing pregame. Watch this one early, and maybe if we see some goals back and forth early, if it's a 1-1 game early, I definitely will look to try and grab an under. I think it could slow down, especially if it gets into the second, third periods.
Yeah, no doubt. Just a couple props that I'm liking here a little bit, and that's a nice price and a nice way to go about it. If you like, I do lean Vegas in this game. I do think they got a chance to win this one. I don't love the start time. That's the one thing I'm hesitant on. 10 a.m. body clock start Pacific time zone. It's not ideal, but and I do think they'll play better Vegas and Pittsburgh. Let's be honest. What's Pittsburgh done from the break? Okay, they lost to the Rangers, but they led most of the game. It's a bad loss. It's the Rangers. They're not very good. And what's the other win they had? New Jersey. Big friggin' deal.
Yep.
New Jersey's bad. So, now they're playing a really good team. This is by far better team than the Rangers or the Devils. So, like I said, I think it's Vegas or nothing for me. Like I said, I played the team total over small. I like that approach, though. Vegas and under 6.5 combo, plus 183. Not a bad option either. I like Braden Bowman to score for the Golden Knights. Great value. I'm going to go back to Barbashev and Dorofeyev again, the two Russians. They continue to be dynamic, and I'm going to go to Sheenakov and Hayes again. I've just been betting Sheenakov and Hayes every game for Pittsburgh since the Olympic break. So those are going to be two that I look at for props on their side. All right, Chicago and Utah. Utah minus 310, home favorites, 6 the total here in this game. This is also an afternoon game, 4 p.m. Eastern it's 2 p.m. Locally in Utah, the Mountain Time Zone at the Delta Center. I'm just going to run it back like I had yesterday. I mean, Chicago, this is that tough back-to-back and altitude spot. Very, very difficult. But, it's that system where we got the minus 300 or greater favorite. So give me Chicago to score in the first period. That's all I'm going to ask of Chicago here. Get me on the board in the first period, then you can do whatever the hell you want after that. I couldn't care less. Couldn't give two shits what you do after that. But get me a goal in the first period here, and I'm happy. And that angle's been pretty solid. Chicago delivered for us with this very angle yesterday against Colorado. So give me that Chicago goal in the first period. I think Utah does win the game, obviously. They beat Minnesota on Friday night. Minnesota was it. How about Utah? You've gotten some gift scheduling spots here to start this weekend here. Minnesota, you caught off a back-to-back after the Colorado game, and same thing here with Chicago, catching the Blackhawks in a back-to-back altitude spots after playing Colorado. So Utah's got to take advantage of this for sure. You would think Soderblom will be in net for Chicago here on the back-to-back. I know it's not confirmed, but I'm pretty damn sure it's going to be him. And Karel Vejmelka more than likely here for Utah. Looks like we're still going to be without Wyatt Kaiser. Still on IR for the Chicago Blackhawks. So Chicago first goal, or not first goal, not first goal. Chicago goal in the first period is what I'm looking at here. Around minus 120 is the price with that. If it's Soderblom, it's funny. I like Chicago to score in the first, but if it's Soderblom, I might look at a team total over for Utah. I've got that kind of in my interest level right now, especially if it's Arvid in net, which I expect. Alex, what do you think here? Chicago, Utah.
Yeah, more than likely will be Soderblom in net from what I'm reading as well, was reading this morning. So I am on Hawks to get a goal in the first period, but I am heavier on both teams to score in the first period. And also we'll be looking at Utah, that team total. You can get a flat 4 minus $1.10 over at BetMGM. So I will be on that. This, like I said, this looked like a bad spot no matter what happened yesterday. If Spencer Knight could have stolen that game and the Hawks win 2-1 or 3-1, this would have still been a fade spot. But like I said, Soderblom the rest of the way more than likely won't be backing him. I'll be looking to fade him. And so, like I said, this is a game where Utah needs the points at home. I think they take care of business. So both teams to score in the first period, Hawks to get a goal in the first period, and Utah team total over 4.
All right, there you go. I like a lot of those, that approach. Chicago, Utah props here for me. Lawson Krause scored in the last game. I'm going to keep, as long as he's on the top line, there's still great value. Obviously we had the great Logan Cooley bargain bin from Matt Robinson scoring the first goal at plus 1,600. Do you want to go back? Do you want to see if lightning strikes twice? He's done it a lot this year, though. Logan Cooley, first goal of the game for Utah. We'll see if that happens again. There's some good stats that Jonathan threw. I liked Yamamoto anyway, because Yamamoto's up the lineup now for Utah. I mean, at least last game against Minnesota, he was on the second line. I think he's with the third line now with Peterka and Hayton. But still, I think he plays power play. He's got good numbers against Soderblom, 3 goals in 3 games. Good price. I'm with you there. And same with Mike Carcone. Can't argue with those numbers. I mean, I know he's only on the 4th line and he's streaky and hasn't scored lately, but 4 goals in 4 games versus Soderblom. If you buy into those numbers, like I said, definitely props worthy of consideration. All right, Winnipeg, San Jose. This is also at 4 p.m. Eastern, this puck drop. We've got San Jose. It looks like they are actually Winnipeg, minus 120 road favorite, 6.5 the total. I was going to say, I thought for a minute, maybe we'd see San Jose as a favorite, and if it, a role they've not been great in, 1 and 2. The 3 times all season they've been favored, but they are a slight home dog here. It's Winnipeg minus 120, road favorites, 6.5 the total here in this game. Now, it is rest advantage for Winnipeg. They lost to Anaheim on Friday night. San Jose played yesterday in a barn burner of a game against the Edmonton Oilers. Clear spot advantage for the Winnipeg Jets, but I ain't touching Winnipeg, against this San Jose team right now. That being said, I don't love San Jose today. Like, I really like yesterday was the price. Yesterday was the spot. Yesterday was the opponent to take San Jose. Edmonton vulnerabilities defensively. You're getting a nice, healthy plus 140 to plus 150 underdog price with San Jose yesterday as well. This game, not so much. And Nedeljkovic is likely going to start here for San Jose back-to-back for the Sharks. Connor Hellebuck already confirmed in net for the Winnipeg Jets. Not his best performance the other night against Anaheim, but we kind of expected that, that part of the handicap for me Friday night. I mentioned it on this show that I didn't expect. I thought it was an emotional letdown for Hellebuck, his first start after winning the gold medal for Team USA, that we wouldn't get him on top of his game. And I actually thought he still played pretty well, but like I said, I think he'll get better today and moving forward. So, I don't do this very often, but no bet for me here, at least not pregame. We're just going to wait and see how this game transpires early and go from there, maybe find something live. Alex, what do you think? Winnipeg, San Jose.
This is my Sunday under of the day, if you will. Like I said, I think with Hellebuck in net, he plays a little bit better. I think with the Sharks, with the back and forth game that they had yesterday, I think they want to have a little bit more of an onus. Let's be a little bit more responsible defensively. We don't need to be getting into these track meets every single game. So I got minus $1.20 with that under 6.5.
Yeah, Logan Stanley power play point, says Jonathan. Yeah, it cashed against Anaheim at an excellent price. I think it was an even better price against Anaheim than that. Plus 500. It's still pretty good value considering his power play opportunity that he's now got. Like, he's on the number one power play now on that blue line with Josh Morrissey out. So he's quarterbacking it with Goner, Velarde, Perfetti, and Scheifele. So no doubt the value there is great for the big man, the giraffe, I like to call him, Logan Stanley, for the Winnipeg Jets. As far as goal props here for Winnipeg in this game, speaking of Perfetti, I do think Perfetti's got value. Velarde scored in back-to-back games for the Winnipeg Jets as well. So if you want to ride the wave that is Gabe Velarde, streaky goal scorer, that's something worth looking at for sure. And then for San Jose, I'm going to stick with, as long as he's on the top line, he'll get one at some point. I'm pretty sure of it. Kiefer Sherwood. I don't even mind Wenberg. Wenberg's centering Graf and Kurashev. So more of an opportunity. Wenberg's been in, some better offensive form of late. So keep that in mind. Those are a couple of props definitely on San Jose here that I'm interested in here for this game. All right, next up, this game, of course, just down the road from Alex, the Grand Casino Arena, St. Louis Blues, Minnesota Wild. We've got Minnesota minus 230, home favorites in this game. 6 the total, 6.5 in some spots. So make sure you shop around. I couldn't believe this, that yesterday night, yesterday evening, I first took a glance at the lines for Sunday. That despite an unbelievable 20-2 over the total run for the Minnesota Wild in their last 22 games, do you know this total opened 5.5 minus 125 at FanDuel? I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I was like, who the hell's making these numbers right now? A preschooler? A grade 2 student? Like, what's going on here as far as who the hell in their right mind is lining a Minnesota game with their full game total at 5.5? Right now, who the hell's doing that? Like, these games are going well over 6 goals, 6.5s, in most of this 20-2 overrun for the Minnesota Wild. So I bet it right away, hammered it over 5.5. Hammer, I am hammer. They put in the bet. Yeah, there you go. Yep, that's what I did. I did. Over 5.5 here, minus 125. Ian put in his bet. Hammer, I am. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little goofy today. What can I say? I'm goofy every day. Over 5.5 here, minus 125, minus 130. That's old stuff, that song, by the way. That's early 90s. So, again, proving we're old, but everybody knows that. So, over the total, I mean, it's the best thing going right now. 20-2 run to the over for Minnesota. Now, I got 5.5. I have no problem with it at 6.5, because these Minnesota games are going over 6.5. Now, I guess the one concern, if you have any, it's this little streak of unders for these Sunday games before 8 p.m. Eastern. This game technically falls into that here with the 5 p.m. Eastern start time, but I don't think even the under run for Sunday hockey pre-8 p.m. Eastern is going to slow down this freight train that is Minnesota overs right now. So, yeah, that's the bet for me. Nothing on the side. Alex, what do you think here? St. Louis, Minnesota.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about Hofer going up against Wallstead. Wallstead, of course, didn't play much over in Milan, so he's just been kind of sitting around. He didn't look the best heading into Milan and into the break as well. So, yeah, this is one where an over. I got 5.5. I got -132. But like I said, if you see a 6, I'm fine with it as well. 6 all the way up to -120. Yeah, just keep it simple with the over.
That now means for our music curator of the Ice Guys Greatest Hits playlist, Addison, we've got another song to add to the mix there. They put me in the mix by MC Hammer.
MC Hammer,
that'll be
add
good
that one.
To it. Hammer. That's what we got to start singing whenever we bet we love. Yeah, Hammer.
Yep.
Hammer. They put in that.
I like that.
Yeah. So definitely the over here. I don't hate Minnesota team total over too, because I think they'll be chomping at the bit. Actually, no, they had a big win against Colorado. That was their last game. So big win. So we'll see. I'll just stick with the full game over here. I think St. Louis could get on the board here. That's the one thing St. Louis can still do. I think is score. The defense is just not great. Dylan Holloway's back too, so I like the goal prop for Dylan Holloway. He's certainly someone that is going to make an impact. Didn't score yesterday, but he scored twice the first game after the break against Seattle. So
Tarasenko against his old team.
Yes,
Tarasenko,
I was just going to go there. Yeah. Boley has scored in 3 straight games for the Minnesota Wild as well. So those are definitely some of the goal props that I'm interested in here when it comes to the Blues and the Wild. But yeah, Dylan Holloway is the one mostly for St. Louis that I'm liking the most on their side of the equation. No question. Dvorsky centering the second line might be a little value there. I like Tarasenko, what you mentioned there, Alex. And I'm going to go back to Ryan Hartman just because he's with Kaprizov and Zuccarello on the top line as well here for Minnesota. So there's some pretty good value there. All right, the next game is ESPN. A nice Sunday night ESPN national TV game. I can't believe I'm complimenting ESPN for anything, but well done. This is what you should be doing this stage of the year. What are you going to put on a Sunday night? WNBA all the fucking time? Put a friggin', NHL game on. You've got the rights after all, and they're doing that. ESPN, Florida, New York Islanders. Florida -145, road favorites, 5.5 the total. I think this could be a classic Islanders spot for a draw. I definitely think so here. Panthers and Islanders, I could see that. I do like the draw a little bit here in this game. Now, this is Florida off the loss to Buffalo after they had beaten Toronto. And it's like with Florida, yeah, you beat Toronto, but Toronto's been awful here since the break. You lost to Buffalo. Can you beat good teams? They did beat Boston at home, before the Olympic break, but, they beat Chicago. And other than that, they've lost every other game other than Toronto, Boston, and Chicago. In their last 9 games. And when they played Boston, it was in Florida and we know, we've talked about it yesterday. It's kind of why I like the Flyers yesterday. Boston's not just not the same team on the road, so we can't give Florida even too much credit, for that kind of win. We'll see how this one plays out, but I think with the Islanders, one thing that's interesting is they've come out of the break. I don't know what it is, the adrenaline, the rest. They look like they've got new energy, revitalization. With this team. They're playing fast. They're scoring goals. They got 4 goals in both of their wins against Montreal and Columbus following the break. We'll see if that carries over here into this game. The over is cashed in 3 of the last 4 meetings between these two teams. Florida's on a 7-2-1 run to the over in their last 10 games going back to before the break. So to see a 5.5 -125 out there with the total, I grabbed it. I took over 5.5 here as well. Even though this is, again, before that 8 p.m. Eastern witching hour, if you will, for the Sunday unders. But at 5.5, I jumped in on a small over 5.5 bet here and the draw. That's what I'm looking at here with Florida and the Islanders. With the great Bob Wischusen calling this game, by the way, and he is great. I mean, his cadence is great. There's a shot, save is made. And I like when he does that when there's a goal, he saves. Shot, save is made. He gets to get that jump in his voice. He just has the cadence for hockey. He really is he's a great broadcaster, period, because he's good with college football, the other NFL, Jets radio voice. He's great for hockey. Like I said, he's the closest they've got to Gary Thorne right now on ESPN. Alex, what do you think here, Panthers, Islanders?
Yeah, I'm right there with you on the draw. I grabbed +310 at Bet Online. It's the best price that I saw available. And I'm like, I'm not going to let myself be fooled again. I talked myself out of the draw yesterday with Islanders and CBJ, and that game just screamed draw season right off the get-go, the back-and-forth action. Definitely should have been on that one. That was money left on the table for sure. So I'm not going to do that again. I feel like they can still keep this one close. And like I said, Florida's still a formidable team, right? They're going to go down fighting. They're not. I don't think we're gonna just see them just completely just bow out until maybe the very end of the race. But this is definitely a game where I can see it being kind of close enough. 5.5. I can probably wait and grab that end game. Maybe even try and wait for it to drop down to a flat 5 at an MGM or something like that. But I'm liking the draw a little bit more here, so I am on that plus 310. Best price I got.
There we go, the draw. And by the way, it's hard to argue with that because the Islanders have had back-to-back draw cashes here since the Olympic break against Montreal and Columbus. So I think the draw is worth a look here. I like over 5.5, and there are a couple props I do like here as far as this game's concerned for both teams. I mean, you look at Florida, and here's a couple I like for the Islanders. They've scored in both games following the break. J.G. Pajot and the captain, Anders Lee. They've both scored in both games since the break against Montreal and Columbus, and you're getting bargain bin worthy prices on both of them. Anders Lee and Jean-Gabriel Pajot for the Islanders. I like it as far as that goes. Even Matthew Tkachuk starting to heat up for the Panthers, but I like Rodriguez centering the top line and Samoskevich most of all from a value standpoint for the Florida Panthers. So those are a couple that I do like as far as the goal props here in this game. Yeah, McDonough, I prefer, McDonough is good, but I prefer Wischusen. But McDonough did a good job of the outdoor game, especially the overtime and the shootout. He did a good call of that. He's getting better, Sean. And I think Sean, it was more of an adjustment for him getting used to doing hockey again. But he's getting better. There's no doubt. But for me, Bob is the best they've got. Bobby Wischusen, yeah. But this is an interesting game. Looking forward to that on the ESPN network later this afternoon. And we wrap up this edition of the show with our final game, Calgary and Anaheim, the final game of the night. Now, this does start at 8 p.m. Eastern, so this technically does not fall into that window of unders that have been so dominant on Sundays. But we've got Anaheim minus 180, home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Anaheim's become one of those teams for me right now where until they slow things down, we talked, I remember Alex's words the other day, Coach Q will let the horses out of the barn, as long as they're winning. And right now they are. They're finding ways to win. Yes, it was a track meet against Edmonton, but they won. Yes, it was kind of an up and down affair against Winnipeg back and forth Friday night, but they won. So I think we could see more of the same here against this Calgary team. I know Calgary, their offense is a little spotty. Their offense can be, can score like it did against San Jose, but can get shut down like it was by the LA Kings last night. But again, now the shutout angle, off a shutout loss angle, has not been as strong with the over by Fecta, but I'm going to take a chance with it tonight here, Calgary, Anaheim. Off a shutout loss for Calgary, the focus is going to be we got to be a little more aggressive offensively. So I like the over by Fecta, and I'm going to run it back with Anaheim team total over 3.5 here tonight as well. Devin Cooley's likely going to start for the Calgary Flames here on the back-to-back. It is Lukas Dostal confirmed again for Anaheim. Cooley's had a better season than we all thought he would, but let's not forget, there's a goaltender now that has not seen game action in a very, very long time. February the 4th is the last time we saw him play, and he has given up 3 goals in each of his last 2 starts. All the credit in the world to Devin Cooley, playing certainly better than I thought for in this backup role behind Dustin Wolf. But I think there could be a little bit of a downturn in his play here post-Olympic break. That combined with the fact he hasn't played since February 4th, almost a full month. I don't expect him to be sharp at his absolute best here this first start. So, yeah, for me, over by Fecta, as well as Anaheim team total over 3.5, right around even money. Alex, what do you think? Calgary, Anaheim.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Give me Anaheim here in regulation minus $1.10. Just taking the better team.
Go. Yep. Very good. And I think, and now another thing too is they're like that dog that smells blood right now. Anaheim. They know that division is within reach right now. They're closing ground on the Vegas Golden Knights, and I think they keep that that foot on the gas pedal, if you will, and to keep trying to close the gap even further. As far as props go, Leo Carlsson has scored in 3 straight games. I mean, he's been great. There's no denying that here for the Anaheim Ducks since he came back from injury. He's done a real nice job for them. So it's hard to argue with any props involving him. That line with him on it alongside. They've actually got Gauthier and Kreider now with Carlson, and that's been some good chemistry here with Coach Q putting that trio together, and it's been solid. So any one of those players could be someone to consider as far as a goal prop. Ryan Poehling scored in the last game, and Ryan Poehling, don't look now, he scored 2 in the last 5 games. You're getting plus 500, pretty good price here for Poehling. For the Anaheim Ducks, and he's chipped in a little bit of late, so don't sleep on him for the Anaheim Ducks as far as getting on the board going into this game. For Calgary, we'll see. I think they're not. I don't think they're going to get shut out like they were against LA. I do think they'll get on the board. Nobody scored for Calgary, but I'm going to go back to I would say Sharon Govich on the top line, and I will take a shot again with Connor Zary for the Calgary Flames, who had been pretty good. Obviously, nobody got on the board last night or yesterday for Calgary, but I think Connor Zary has been one of their better offensive players in the last several games. All right, great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday edition of the Ice Guys. Again, check out wizardsportspicks.com. I mean, there's another profitable winning Saturday for me at the site. Number 1 in the NHL, profitable in every sport going on right now, NBA, college basketball, NHL, MLB right around the corner, March Madness. It's a great time of year to check it out. Daily premium picks, as well as 3-day, 7-day, 30-day, 1-year, all sports subscription passes available. Get on board long-term as well. Check it all out at wizardsportspicks.com. And, of course, patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. The sign-ups keep on coming. We appreciate it very much. Again, another great result with the betting card for the most part yesterday. So let's keep it going. Bargain bin winner, courtesy of Alex with the Cole Caulfield over 1.5 goals. So get on board. Daily betting card, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. We'll get today's card posted very shortly, certainly before the rest of the slate, before Chicago, Utah, and the rest of the games on this Sunday. We'll get the card posted on the Patreon page. So make sure you check it out. We're going to have more Patreon exclusive live betcasts the rest of the season. We got some interviews that we're going to get done for the Players Suite that'll be exclusive to our members. So make sure you get on board. $10 per month. Your membership goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going long term. So check it out. Just $10 per month. Patreon.com/iceguys.
And like I said, we're into March, so we hope we get to 400 paid members by the end of this month. That would be fantastic. We're hoping you guys can chip in.
Help us out.
Sure.
Yep. The drive for 400. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yep. Also take advantage of this deal at iceguys.myspreadshop.com, the Ice Guys store. You have until midnight Eastern tonight to save 30% off all items in the store. Hit the redeem button at the homepage, add all your items to your cart, and 30% will be taken off at checkout. Like I said, it's March, springtime's here. Weather's going to get nice. It's going to start being in the 50s and 60s and hopefully 70 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the month. So it's a great time to get yourself a new T-shirt, get yourself a cap, a hoodie, all three. Like I said, however you want to do it, you can save 30% off until midnight tonight. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, bargain bin special of the night. Best bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guy sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
Thanks to all our sponsors, and it is time now for Bargain Bin Special of the night on this Sunday. Alex, what do you like for Bargain Bin Special of the night?
I got a pair of them. First, let's go to that Chicago-Utah game, and I'm going to take a page from Matty Rob's book. We're going to go with a Utah player to score first in the game. I'm going to go Clayton Keller, plus 1,100 to get the first goal of the game. for the Utah Mammoth. That would be my first bargain bin special. My second bargain bin special will be up the street here at Grand Casino Arena. You got St. Louis taking on Minnesota. And like I said, a guy going up against his old team. We've seen his scoring prowess kind of reinvigorate in a way with his time at the Minnesota Wild. Vladimir Tarasenko, plus 330 anytime goal scorer against St. Louis. That'll be my second bargain bin special. So Clayton Keller, first goal of the game, plus 1,100 for Utah. And Vladimir Tarasenko from Minnesota, plus 330 anytime goal scorer. My 2 Sunday bargain bin specials.
There you go. Great stuff. All right. I'm just going to go to the captain of the New York Islanders for my bargain bin special of the night. Back-to-back games with a goal for Anders Lee coming out of the All-Star break for the New York Islanders. So clearly he's – and by the way, Pajot, Holmstrom, and Lee has been a line for them, and it's been a good line. They've been maybe the best line for the Islanders these 2 games out of the break, because on that line, Pajot's got goals in back-to-back games as well. So I could make a case to go with him too for bargain bin, but I chose the captain here in a big game for the Islanders. They're all big games now. Anders Lee, plus 350 for the New York Islanders for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
Let's go back to Salt Lake City. You got the Hawks taking on the Mammoth, and like I said, I hope Clayton Keller can score that first goal of the game. Maybe a Teravainen or Bedard gets that second goal, but I'm liking both teams to score in the first period, plus 176. That is my best bet. Chicago, Utah, first period, both teams to score.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, this is the boring best bet choice, but I'm using it. St. Louis, Minnesota, over 6. Like I said, it's I think it's still cheap. I mean, I had this 6.5, and there's still lots of 6s out there with the Blues Wild over. 20-2 run to the over for the Minnesota Wild. And again, you can get over 6 minus 110, minus 115. Still is out there at many books. So again, I think we see another Minnesota Wild game over the total. So St. Louis, Minnesota, over 6, minus 110. That'll be my best bet here for this Sunday. All right, shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Back with you tomorrow. Perlo, who you see in the chat right now, will be, of course, with us tomorrow, as he is every Monday. So make sure you join us here for the show. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex P. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will be back on Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of the Ice Guys.